This program is brought to you by Palmolive Hand Sanitizer. Keep your hand fresh and clean.
Good evening. Welcome to Simpson at 8. The first positive case of coronavirus COVID-19 in Fiji was announced today. Prime Minister Voreqe Bainimarama made the announcement at around 3 p.m. The first COVID-19 patient is a 27-year-old flight attendant who recently serviced flights from the US and New Zealand. He is under isolation but is in stable condition. Contact tracing is underway to identify those he has been in contact with. Among the measures announced by the PM today, a virtual lockdown of our second largest city, Lautoka. Population 80,000. Travel restrictions now extend to foreign nationals who have been present in the United States of America and all of Europe, including the United Kingdom, within 14 days of the intended travel to Fiji. Also from midnight, anyone entering Fiji from any overseas destination will be required to self-quarantine for 14 days, meaning they must stay in one place and avoid contact with others or go out in public as much as possible. Gatherings of 20 or more people are now banned in Fiji. Gatherings defined as any assembly of individuals in a single location, including meetings, religious gatherings, that's church, mosque, temple services, and sports events. Joining me this evening to discuss this major, fast-moving story is lawyer and social media influencer, John Apted. John, thanks for joining me on the show.
Hi, Stan.
No shaking hands now?
Definitely not.
All right, now this is a game changer, isn't it?
It's a huge game changer. In fact, we did this show last night, right?
Yes.
When there was not a diagnosed case. And what I was saying last night was that we have, in Fiji, have not been acting responsibly till now. I mean, there was always a threat that this would happen. It was inevitable. Now that it's happened, everybody's running into top gear.
Why do you think we didn't take it seriously?
It's the same.
Here you're talking about the government or the people or
everybody. I mean, government took some measures and they announced certain things, but people didn't internalize it. People have been carrying on as if it was a foreign threat, that some foreigner might come in and infect us, without realizing that it could be a local, as this first person has turned out to be, this first diagnosed case.
Yes.
The other thing was everybody has proceeded as if you need to wait for the first case before you do anything.
Right.
The point is, this has an incubation period of between 5 and 14 days. So if you're infected and you carry on with your normal life in Fiji, socializing, touching people, drinking grog with them, talking, you could have spread it widely already.
It seems to have been, well, we don't know how much is spread, but this seems to have been the case, the incubation period.
Yeah.
He arrived into the country, no symptoms.
Yeah, but I mean, with this particular person, the thing to remember first is he's the first diagnosed case. It doesn't mean he's the only case, and it doesn't mean that he's the first case. We've only tested about 60 people so far in this country. So
54 was the exact number up till
this morning. So out of 54, we have one. There's nearly a million other people in this country. So we don't know.
So we're from a very small sample.
Yes, it is a small sample, so we don't know. The second thing is that, I've forgotten what I was going to say.
Well, there's a lot of things to break down here.
This is like unprecedented.
Yeah.
So now that we do know, we're all leaping into action and we're panicking, which is the last thing I think anybody should do.
Because, I mean, part of the panic, or part of the reason maybe we were not taking it seriously is it never happened to us.
Yes.
And now we are panicking because it's never happened to us.
That too, but what's happened here is what's happening in Fiji is actually what's happened in all the other countries. And it's, sort of sad in a way that we didn't learn their lessons. Now we have to catch up, and there's no point in looking back. We've just got to look forward, and we've got to deal with this issue maturely.
Yes, because I recall a lot of people laughing at the toilet paper, mess gathering.
Yes, last week in other countries.
And now it's happening here.
Exactly.
So we'll come to that. Now, just coming up to, the should have and the could have. I mean, it's too late now, man. What should we have done? We were not taking it seriously, is your viewpoint. You're not a health expert, but you're an observer, you're a commentator. Could there have been greater action taken earlier?
I think we all could have, like I said, taken it more seriously. I have a particular interest because I read a lot on social media. I read all the news stories and I follow what's happening around the world. And I was particularly interested because the data shows that certain groups are more at risk of fatality than others. And this includes the aged, those with high blood pressure, those with heart issues, and those with diabetes.
Yeah, you fit into that category.
Yes, exactly. I fit into that category in two ways. I have high blood pressure, so I was, very interested to know, why I was at risk. And also, I have older parents and an older aunt who lives with them. So I've followed this thing very closely, and I've always been pushing on my social media page for people to be aware, to start practicing safe behavior before this thing happened.
Right. I just want to come back to today. A lot information spread on social media quite early.
Yes.
And some of us got the information earlier than others. We were waiting for the government's announcement. We were getting information. We tried to say as much as we could without, preempting that the Prime Minister is the person that has to make that announcement. There was concern, in many sectors about the delay in the announcement.
Yes.
This was at 5:30 in the morning.
Yes.
The news came. We were told first 8 a.m., then 10, then 12, then 1. The announcement came at 3. What did you make of the delays?
Well, it can only show that they
we will ask government.
Yeah,
why,
I don't know the real reasons, but if you guess, and I know because everybody on social media was already spreading the news, and they were all waiting for the official announcement. The only thing that one can deduce is that government was still trying to work out what measures it was going to take. And that was a developing scenario.
And I guess you can't really rush your announcement without telling people what to do and what's going to happen.
Yeah, they had to work it all out, and I suppose they had to coordinate it all. But I hope that they've come up with what they're doing internationally. They've come up with what they're doing for Lautoka, but they've got to get their blueprints ready now for what they're going to do if it happens to Suva, Nandi, Rakiraki, Mbal, Lopasa,
so
wherever.
That's now all in the pipeline now. What will happen next if something does?
One hopes.
Yeah,
yes.
one hopes. Because there's one viewpoint is that they were unprepared, that they they were taken by surprise and didn't have the details, and the other is that they were acting more responsibly in terms of how they gather the information and put the information out.
Well, either is possible, and the public can decide.
Government will obviously do its best to to contain it, but they need the community and the public to play its part. They can't just do it on their own.
No, they can't.
We have to take action. All have to take action. What are some of the actions that need to be taken?
People have got to learn first who's at risk. The biggest thing you've got to realize is that most people are not at risk. No, we're not all at risk.
Okay.
Most people, everybody's at risk of contracting it.
Yeah.
Most people are not at risk of dying. The information from all the other countries is that young, healthy people have only usually only suffer a mild case of it. It's only the elderly and those who are in the risk groups who have the greater
who suffer fatalities.
Who have the more severe cases and who also have the greater risk of fatalities. So the point is, I think that people shouldn't panic. The average person is not going to die of this disease. However, the average person has to be careful because they will inevitably come into contact with people who are at risk or who have loved ones who are in the risk category.
Yeah, who we love and we care for.
Yes.
And obviously, washing of hands, some real basic things.
There's a whole lot of things. Like the government has said, we've got to wash our hands with soap for 20 seconds. Frequently. If you can't do that, sanitize. Remember also that when it comes to hands and things like that, it's not just the motion. You've got to remember there's no point in washing your hands if you're going to touch something dirty or something that may be contaminated immediately after. You've got to think constantly defensively. There's stop sharing of utensils. keep your distance, social distancing, all of these ideas have all got to be adopted quickly.
So I know we need to go to break, but I think I'd like to add to this part. So social distancing, what exactly does that mean?
That means going against everything that we want to do as Fijians.
Which is to shake hands.
To shake hands, to hug, to kiss, to share your food, to share your glass, to share your mbilo. All of that's got to stop. You've got to remember that you've got to stay away from people so much as possible. 6 feet, they say, is the ideal distance. Don't attend group things. That will really be difficult for people here to do, because people in Fiji, they're worried more about offending people and their relationship to other people than they are about catching diseases. So this particular phenomenon that we are experiencing now requires people to go against everything that they normally do, and they've got to think defensively and not socially.
Right. What do you do when someone tries to shake your hand?
You just say kakatach. You can do something else like your elbow or your foot.
Serious issue, but we're discussing with John Apted on this first case of the COVID-19 coronavirus in the country, and what do we need to do to minimize, to contain it, and to ensure that it does not spread. Don't go away. We'll be right back after the break.
This program is brought to you by Palmolive Hand Sanitizer. Keep your hand fresh and clean.
We can't wait to meet you.
I got this.
Hi guys, this is Peter. I'm going in to help Mom, okay?
Oh boy, these are some pretty big fellas. Hello. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Whoa, that's a tight grip.
Hey.
Seriously?
Hey, is that your car?
Yes, it is.
Sweating on the inside? Handle it on the outside with Speed Stick.
Hey, come with my dad.
Huh? Speed Stick. Don't sweat it, handle it.
This program is brought to you by Palmolive Hand Sanitizer. Keep your hand fresh and clean.
Welcome back. You're watching Simpson at 8. We're discussing the announcement of the first case of the COVID-19, in the first confirmed positive case, COVID-19 in the country, with lawyer John Apted. Now, John, before we go on to the measures announced by the Prime Minister, are there legal issues with regards to this COVID-19?
Yes, there are. There are a number of legal issues. If you go to what the Prime Minister said, first of all, quarantining. You've got to have legal powers to do that. You've got to have legal powers to punish people who break quarantine. Same as social distancing. Same as self-isolation.
So you
for
mean
those who come.
if you say no to shake hands, someone want to shake hands with you, that's against the law?
I don't think that they will go that far, but you remember the main initiative today, which is to quarantine Lautoka. They have to have a law to be able to punish somebody who doesn't follow the quarantine or who breaks out. Similarly, the Prime Minister's announced that those arriving in the country must self-isolate.
Yeah.
You've got to have a law and a punishment for those who don't obey that. You know, so there's no point in having all these rules.
So even the announcement of banning of gathering of 20.
Yes, you've
and
got to
if a
have.
church happens to have 50 people going on Sunday.
Yes, you've got to have a law and a punishment to enforce that, to stop people from doing it. So you've got to have two things. You've got to have cooperation from the people, and you've got to have a backup to deal with those who break
Okay,
the
that
rules.
hasn't been announced. That legal
That
aspect.
hasn't. And so they would be very busy right now, the Attorney General's office, coming up with the emergency
Drafting the
legislation
legislation.
that you will need for those few people who don't do like what they're supposed
For
to
you to
do.
enforce what the Prime
Yes.
Minister has announced today legally.
Yes.
And also those, in the contact tracing and all that.
All of that. And also you've got the other economic issues, like you've got to worry about whether our current employment laws are adequate to deal with the layoffs that will be happening, in the quarantined cities and also in the tourist industry. You've got to worry about all the people who are not working, are not able to pay their rent or their mortgages, what laws the government might want to bring in
Right.
to freeze those things, to
Okay.
keep society going.
Right, that's interesting to note. Now, starting midnight tonight, all schools, and announced by the PM, all schools, non-essential business within the Greater Lautoka area closed until further notice. So it's essentially a lockdown. And Lautoka now defined Kings Road at Nadilau Junction past Matawalu Village, and then supermarket and then to the feeder road at Vakambuli Road, Queens Road at Natalau Junction. So everything closed except the essential businesses, and they've defined the essential businesses. This is going to be a tough time for the people of Lautoka.
It will be, yes, it will be. It'll be new. But the thing is, they've just got to live with the limitations and do their best to get through them for everybody's sake, most of all their own. Yeah.
Because basically we're locking them away from the rest of the country.
Yeah, but they're lucky. It's a big area. You've still got people that you can deal with. You've still got shops and food, so it's not that desperate.
That's right. So and also, so people who coming from Nandi to work in Lautoka, basically they can't do that anymore.
No, they can't.
They just have to stay out.
And vice versa, because there's many people who work in Nandi or work for Fiji Airways who live in Lautoka because it's got better accommodation. They will not be able to go to work.
Because right now they're contained.
Yes, if they are in Lautoka.
And so if there's no branch, so basically people have to just work this out with the employers. You know,
Yes.
it's a time where everyone has to come together. I mean, that's got to be the mindset, right?
That is, we don't have any option. We've got to work on this together for everybody's benefit.
So government, the employers, everybody's just
And
gotta
the
play
workers,
and the
yeah.
workers, everybody's got to play that part. So if you live in the Greater Lautoka area, you stay in the Greater Lautoka area. That's how the Prime Minister announced it. If you do not live in that area, you stay out of there.
Yep.
So another issue that the people are going to be worried about is food security. Government has made some arrangements with this regard.
Yeah, government has said a couple of things. For those in Lautoka, for fresh vegetables, they will be buying from
Don't
the
panic,
sources.
first of all.
Yeah, don't panic. They will be making arrangements to bring fresh vegetables into the city for sale, and I suppose meat too. They've
Making
said
some arrangements
Yeah.
with the market.
Yes, with the market vendors, etc. They've also said that there's plenty of food that will still be coming in from imports and elsewhere, so don't panic, which is a good thing. But the point is, if people panic, there will be shortages because they will clear the shelf, and it will take a while, a few days before they get replenished and before new shipments come.
So buy just within the means would be the advice.
Yes, everybody's got to be thoughtful. Don't panic and just buy what you need so that there is enough for
For
everybody.
everybody to go around, eh?
And if you've seen the footage from overseas, they've emptied the shelves are still empty. They're buying stupid things like toilet paper.
Well, let's stop and see, because we're doing the same thing.
Yeah, we laughed last week, and everybody's doing exactly
It's
the
happening
same
now,
thing.
and I'll get to that because
Okay.
that's happening.
Yeah.
And a lot of toilet paper was bought today. Gatherings of 20 or more people now banned.
Yes.
Gatherings defined as any assembly of individuals. So, I mentioned it in my intro.
That will be very difficult for people. This country...
So that's a tough one.
Yes, we love gatherings, whether it's for religious purposes on the holy day like a Sunday or during the week for choir and church meetings. We love funerals, we love weddings, we love school meetings, we love concerts, we love parties.
I mean, we turn up.
Yeah, and that's the meaning of our lives for many of us. So this will all have to stop. It will just have to stop.
Well, how, government will enforce that in some ways. So
Yeah, well, they will have to have a way. I mean, I don't know, whistleblowers or something, which is not nice. But if this containment strategy
Does not work.
Is going to work, you have to have these
it is
mechanisms.
for everybody, not even the people in Lautoka. These all across the country.
That's right.
So just stop
Yes,
gathering.
people have got to stop gathering, and they've got to learn to say no, thank you.
It's going to be a big change in how we behave and our attitude, and whether we are really serious about really containing this.
Yes, I mean, I'll give you an example. I've been posting for a while about this, and somebody posted a comment on one of my statuses today on Facebook, a gentleman, and he said, yes, I understand this self-containment thing. I explained to my children last night about how we should not be, we have got to act responsibly, don't go out anywhere, learn to say no thank you. And then moments later, his son's uncle calls, invites him to Yangona. The son stands up, goes to drink Yangona, and comes back at 2.
Right.
So, that illustrates how deeply ingrained our
How
impulse.
tough it will be for us. But look,
Yeah.
this is a serious issue. We've never faced
Yes.
it, and if we all be irresponsible,
We can get through it.
yeah, right. Now, all these measures. Now, were you surprised that Suva and Nandi were not closed off? Was not closed down like Lautoka?
Well,
The
because
schools and things?
well,
Maybe
no-
people saying, people from Lautoka have already come.
Yeah, but
What about the passengers on the plane that was served? So
Yes, but you can't be shutting down the whole country out of fear. At the government's got to deal
Well,
with
not
the
out of
risk.
fear, out of responsibility to stop the spread.
Yes, but it might not be here. And the consequences of shutting down altogether are huge. I mean, how will, you get home? How will you get to your family? Like, we have many people in Suva who live all the way to Korovo, all the way to Navua, who work in Suva.
But it may come to that.
It may.
Without causing any panic.
Yeah,
that situation.
if we come to it, then we deal
Because
with it.
just looking at what we've seen in other countries, the rate in which it increased the numbers, it can rise pretty quickly as more testing happens.
Yes, and as dormant cases start to manifest. Yes.
So, but it's just a matter now really being responsible and following the directions and instructions that the government has put out.
That's correct.
So, Prime Minister say this will be reviewed in 14 days' time, and he does say measures may escalate if necessary as they monitor the situation, particularly the outcomes of the contact tracing.
Yeah, because they've got to moderate the responses so that they don't disturb life and economic life and social life any more than they need to.
Right.
So they've got to go in stages.
He did finish on a very, try to rally the country. On a positive note, he says, we've done a lot of these travel restrictions, practice social distancing. He says, but this does not mean we don't distance ourselves from the genuine care and camaraderie that bind us together as a society, which is going to come under some serious challenging time. He said, we're heading into a difficult period, but at this moment of challenge, our national unity cannot run in short supply. No one should act out of fear or with panic. We must all act out of love. We hold for our fellow Fijians. We are in this together.
Yes.
Right tone, right message from the
That is correct. I mean, we've all got to act with each other's best interests at heart. And we've got to act responsibly.
Right. So for the opposition, it's a challenging time. They were hammering the government, saying, look, this economy was already down. Don't blame COVID-19. The economy was already down before this happened. The government is to blame for everything, but they've got to watch their messaging because this must be a time for unity.
Correct. I mean, this is a time when the temptation to say, I told you so, is greatest. Because all of the government's mistakes or all of the government's inadequacies may be exposed. And if you're a politician, your impulse is to highlight it because you're worried about the next election. But this is not the time to do it. What people need to hear is not criticism. They need to hear positive messages. They need to have hope. At the same time, government has got to realize that half the country didn't vote for them. And half the country may not be willing to listen to them. So if they really have the interest of the country at heart, they should be reaching out to the opposition.
And they should practice this and put on a united front with the opposition.
Everybody in the government should be working together to help us solve this. And government should also be reaching out to the NGOs, to the churches, to all the community groups to get the message out about social change, because unless you get it out through the people that everybody trusts and everybody listens to, change is going to be very hard to achieve.
All right. You're watching Simpson at 8. Don't go away. John and I will be right back after the break.
This program is brought to you by Palmolive Hand Sanitizer. Keep your hand fresh and clean.
Hi, with the help of Palmolive Naturals shampoo and conditioner, with these 3 quick and easy tips, I'm going to show you that more natural, beautiful hair is achievable. Step 1, massage your scalp during washing with shampoo. Step 2, apply conditioner to the tips of your hair. Step 3, gently towel dry your hair. There you have it. For natural, beautiful hair, use Palmolive Naturals shampoo and conditioner. Have a great hair day.
This program is brought to you by Palmolive Hand Sanitizer. Keep your hand fresh and clean.
Welcome back. You're watching Simpson at 8 with John Apted, lawyer John Apted, social influencer, commentator, political commentator. John, so much panic at the moment. People will say, oh, stay calm, but in their mind they worry, man, what if this gets worse? Because in our mind, we all know our country, the health system is in a challenging state.
So, yeah, I mean, that's an understatement.
That's an understatement. And government is saying, look, we're prepared, but everyone needs to be like doing their own calculation of how they protect themselves and their family. But what would be, in your view, the way to look at this and to handle this?
I think you can start with the state of the health system. We all know that it's not the best health system in the world. There's many better health systems. Government has told us that they are prepared for emergencies, but I understand...
Well, they've told us they've been investing in a lot of it.
I understand that the number of beds and respirators is limited. There's only so many. We're a small country, there's only so many. So if the numbers of critical cases rises quickly, the system will not be able to cope. Two things. Government can ask our donor countries to help with more, but they will still probably not be enough. So that has to motivate people. You've got to bear in mind that the ability to be treated for critical cases is limited. So that should motivate us to be more vigilant, so that we
not get to that stage.
Don't take the risk because there's no backup, or there's very limited backup. Not no backup, but the backup is limited. So we must avoid getting there.
Yeah, we must do all we can, and then support the government.
Yes,
basically.
and
the
prevent
leadership
it.
at
Yes.
the moment, because this is our overriding priority at this moment. Politics aside,
we
this
must
is the
get
biggest
through
challenge we
this.
face, because we've never faced anything like this before.
No. We've had pandemics before, like in 1918, the Spanish flu, the society was different. This is happening when, like there's globalization, our whole economy depends on tourism, trade, people coming and going, rugby players coming back, army people coming and going back.
We're all connected.
Yes, every part of Fiji is connected with each other, and this is, to deal with this, we have to break the transportation and the links. So, and work as we know it has got to stop. Economic activity is more limited. So the whole structure of society in Fiji and in every other country is being shaken and tested at the moment.
That's right. And then another thing that's here now with us is social media, which was not there before. And it's spreading a lot of information, good information, and also a lot of disinformation and panic. So there's advantages and disadvantages. How are you seeing how social media in Fiji, the spectrum is handling this crisis, and how should people look at the information they get on social media?
There are two things. You're exactly right. It's like what you learn in primary school about how fire is a good servant but a bad enemy. That's exactly what social media is. It's a very, very effective way to learn, but it's also a very effective way to be for disinformation to get out there. Two things. Government has got to learn how to use social media. They're very slow, like today, in using it. They seem to see it more as a hindrance than a tool.
The silence was really, really bad.
Yes, and social media, continues, whether they like it or not, whether they use it or not, social media will continue. So unless you get the information into social media quickly, people will fill that void with things that may not be true, or usually are not true. The second thing that social media users have got to be aware of is we need now more than ever to learn to discern between reliable information and disinformation. We should not believe everything we read.
So how can one do that?
Just because it's on your phone doesn't mean it's true. For myself, my rules of thumb are never believe a cut and paste. You get hundreds of messages from people in your messenger who are well-meaning, who've cut and pasted something. If it's a cut and paste, it's more than likely to be fake. If you're going to share news stories, share like government announcements from the Fiji government or the US government or CDC, whatever, that's fine. Share reputable media outlets. You've got to recognize the brand name, CNN, ABC, Sydney Morning Herald, New York Times, those brands. Always check where the link is. Because if it's an unknown kind of media outlet, it's
fake news.
It's likely to be fake news. So be careful.
So social media pretty critical too for us at this time.
Yes, very much. And that's where people get most of their information
The
from.
big thing also obviously is the economy.
Very
Whichever way we see it, after the announcement today, we're going to take a hit. And other countries closing their borders. We obviously have now got severe restrictions in place. Big impact on our economy, as it has been on the global economy. Supplementary budget next week, next Thursday, which we're all looking forward to. Clearly, action has to be taken to cushion the effects.
Yes.
And other governments have been giving stimulus packages and put in place measures, suspension of mortgage payments. But for government, we were already in a tough economy, so this is going to be a tough balancing act.
It will be. I wouldn't like to be in the Minister for Economy's shoes right now. He doesn't have the kind of luxury that the Prime Minister of New Zealand and their Minister for Finance have. They've had a good year lately. They've got money available. Australia and New Zealand have a number of industries, some of which are less affected by COVID than others. Unfortunately, for us, our biggest foreign exchange earner, our biggest source of revenue is tourism. And tourism depends on travel, and what is happening now, there's no tourism.
Right.
So the tourism
It's
dollar
about
is not coming in.
40% of our GDP, basically,
Yeah,
our economy.
but even the rest of it is dependent, I suspect, on tourist dollars coming through. So without the tourists, we don't have jobs in the hotels, we don't have jobs in the taxis, we don't have jobs in the support areas, in the shops that feed the tourist workers, or the factories. We don't have the revenue, or a lot of the revenue that pays our public servants. So the flow on is large. We've got to also worry about, and the government's also got to worry about, businesses who have no income in the short term. How are they going to survive? Because the last thing you want is businesses going under.
And a collapse of
and everything collapses, and then there's nothing when we come out of this. So it's just how, the challenge facing the government is what they can do to keep the economy going without the tourist dollar.
And also absorbing the impacts as much as we can.
And dealing with the health costs and the rest of it.
And all these things, because everything's going to be going up. Now, John, it's not an easy time to be living in, obviously for everybody. We're worrying about data, about jobs, about income, food, even toilet paper. And if someone asks you now, John...
I've got plenty.
John, what should we do? What will you say?
It's really very simple. Two things. Don't panic. It probably will not kill you. The chances it'll kill you are very small. But there are people that it's more likely to kill. So you've got to act as if you have it, so that you are careful about not spreading it to others. So you don't pretend you have it, but act as if you could infect somebody else and somebody you love. So that way you're more likely to be careful about touching. And that was something I read on social media, and it really did sound logical to me. Like, act as if you are a carrier. If you act like you're a carrier, you will be careful. You will not get it yourself.
Your attitude will change.
Yes. You will not get it yourself because you're not touching people. And plus, if you are by any chance carrying it, you will not be infecting anybody else.
All right. John Apted, thank you for joining me on Simpson at 8.
You're welcome.
All right. That was our show for the evening. You can join me again on Simpson at 8 next Thursday at the same time. Good night.
This program was brought to you by Palmolive Hand Sanitizer. Keep your hand fresh and clean.
Curly. Straight.
Soft.
Wavy. Afro.
Short.
Long.
Healthy.
Palmolive Naturals for naturally beautiful hair.
It's formula infused with extracts like coconut oil, aloe vera and avocado to enhance your hair's natural beauty, giving you naturally beautiful hair that always looks gorgeous and smells great throughout the day. Palmolive Naturals.
Have a great hair day.